Welcome to the Untrapped podcast, where we give motivational and inspirational tips about life, small business, wisdom,
health, wealth, finance, relationships.
It's about being the best you that you can possibly be. Hashtag Untrapped. Welcome to the Untrapped podcast. I am your host, Keith Kelfus.
Hey, what's up? It's Keith Kelfus with the Untrapped podcast. I have an awesome guest. We have Rob, my friend Rob here, and you might have heard me talk about him in my YouTube videos, refer to him. He was actually present during my marketing event here this year in 2018, and he's a wealth of knowledge and information, a man of experience, and he also does private coaching, and he's also coached me a lot. He's a guy who, when it comes to consciousness and looking at things from a divorce yourself from the chaos perspective and look at it in a conscious way, he's the guy. Although this is going to be a short podcast today, and we're going to try to get out as much value as possible, you're going to want to stick around and listen to this. It's going to be about a 20-minute podcast. You're going to want to listen to this because he's going to give us a way to look at the transactions in our business, in our service businesses, taking care of a customer in a way you might not have looked at it before. I'm really excited. And then also talk about not only that in a short-term way, but some long-term information. And just to plant the seeds in our heads. There's tons of information we could talk about, but Rob.
Hey.
What's up, Rob?
Thanks for having me. It's good to be here, Keith. Appreciate it.
So we got some lunch, and we were talking about... I went right into asking you questions about like law and trusts and wills and equity, and not that I know what that stuff means, but just by hanging around with you and absorbing some of the content that you share with me, I'm learning some stuff like, wow, I never thought of that. It's almost like the Matrix. So can you talk a little bit about what I'm saying, feed that back to me, and then I want to ask you about the transaction of like just doing a small business, a handshake deal versus a contract. And
sure. All of us are familiar with law to some extent. You know, we try to drive the right speed. We get ourselves into some kind of legal trouble, and we go and we get an attorney at law, and they help us with the complexities of our legal situations. So if you're in business, you're writing contracts, right? And you're trying to get your customers to engage in a contract with you so that each party feels somewhat secure that by the time the transaction is complete, that both parties will feel that it was a mutually beneficial experience. That's contract law. And then we also talked about trust law, and there's several forms of trust law: exclusive equity, and then there's concurrent equity, and then we have auxiliary equity, which doesn't really get used very much at all. And those are law forms or jurisdictions that are all separate from each other. So we have at law, and then we have the various forms of equity. The more that you understand equity, the more that you can protect yourself over the long run from things like confiscations, fines, penalties, and fees, and things that undermine your wealth.
Stop real quick. You just said all these terms and stuff, and you guys listening right now might be like, whoa, what is he talking about? Is this even right for me? Am I in the...
Like, it's like the right podcast?
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff to take in real quick. So my attorney told me, I said, how do you deal with all this shit and all this paperwork and all these people calling you? He goes, I love to create order out of chaos. He says, give me a bunch of chaos. I love it, and I'll create order out of it. I was like, this dude's crazy.
Well, there is something rewarding about, bringing order out of chaos, because the universe tends towards chaos unless there's an intervening force of order. And we have both, order and chaos. They're reciprocals, and so they interact with each other to create everything that is.
You guys can tell this could easily be like a 12-week-long podcast.
Yeah. It's not for quick results for today.
Yeah.
But if you engage in the process of, awakening, like trying to get them to work together, equity and law, then you wind up with much more predictable, stable futures. And when controversies arise in the future, they're so much easier to settle. They often can be effortless. You often don't have to go to court because you have expressed a structure and a set of rules and guidelines that are so solid that they're impenetrable. There is no controversy. It's too clear.
I remember when I first started my landscaping business, I would cry to you on the phone. I'd be like, Rob, this thing happened. I don't know what to do. And you're like, well, you should put a structure, a boundary or something in your contract or communicate that up front or a little bit of, because I was all over the place. And I'm not saying that I have it all figured out now. I definitely don't. No. But I was trying to ride the business off just completely with the person trusting that, my customers trusting that I'm a good person.
Yeah, and you're actually sub-communicating that, or you wouldn't have the following that you have or the respect that you have or the loyal customers that you have. You know, we're so focused on what we say and what somebody else says that we miss out on all the sub-communication. Mm-hmm. And people who study, personal growth and development of any kind often come across the quote that communication is only about 7% words. And so there's an awful lot of substance in the communication coming from somewhere else than the actual words that are being said or put on the paper. So words are a tool, they're not really the majority of the substance of a relationship or the substance of communication. So what is all that? That's a lot, right? And if you're not paying attention to what that is, how it works, what the principles are down there, then you're probably having a lot of fires to put out. Like you feel like you're chasing around, putting out fires all the time. And that's my way of putting what you just said about, your contracts when you were talking to me about situations you were bumping into. And what I was recommending was how to put something that was fireproof in it so that you would never have to put that fire out again. And so as you start to have a better relationship with this part of things, there's less fires to put out, and you're never putting out the same fire twice. So as you grow, over 6 months or a year or two or whatever, over the next 5 years, you have put so much fireproof material, right, in the structure of your business that there's less controversies. And if anyone does arise, right, it gets resolved so much more quickly and swiftly. That's the payoff. It's not today or this week so much. It's over time it gets better and better and better and better. So that so it'd be crazy not to, because it's like going to a customer and saying, yeah, we're going to install this landscape and that's all. And you just install whatever you think, what you thought the customer thought. And there's no rule and order or protocols, no nothing. And then they go, I didn't want this. Or now you have a controversy and you don't have any structure around it. Your communication was insufficient for a harmonious conclusion, a synchronistic conclusion. And then you lose the synergy of a repeat customer or a referral. These are things that are hard to see when you're running as fast as you can, putting out fires. If you're in court because you got a no turn on red ticket and you say to the judge, but I'm a good person. Right, that's a moral position you're trying to take in a legal courtroom. And a legal courtroom, attorneys at law don't deal in are you acting morally or not. They're dealing in legal terms and how you feel has nothing to do with that. So it's in a different dimension, or it's a totally different jurisdiction. Right. Yes, jurisdiction. The way you feel in morals and then versus papers and contracts and titles and like all these different things. We're not even aware, from my position as a small business owner, that all these things go into play and can actually, when we learn about it, can serve us. Right. So we can serve our customers better. Yeah. We can serve ourselves better. The more morality that you encompass and the more integrity that you maintain, the easier it is for you to see those that also are moral and maintain integrity. I took on a project recently, a few weeks ago. Yeah. I was excited about it at the time.
and I had exactly a certain amount of time to get this project in, get it finished, and get it out. When there was a landslide and everything got pushed back, I don't have time for that project now. Now I have to push everything back because my word is my bond, and I have to do it. I got myself in. And
well, that's you and your integrity. So you're maintaining integrity no matter what it costs, but there's benefits to maintaining that even though there's costs.
Yep.
One of the benefits is you're sharpening your discipline and your foresight for the future. Because you don't want to suffer.
I say let's just go into the long term. What is trusts and wills? Somebody gets all this figured out in the short term, finally. What does that mean, long term?
Well, we go out and we register a name of a business, and they'll either incorporate or use an assumed name certificate or a DBA, a doing business as. They create a business structure. And so that's an entity. So that business entity, no matter what form it's in, right, a subtype S or a 501c3 or whatever their structure is, those are all legal structures at law. And they're out there doing their interaction with the public, with commerce, and they're trading value and obtaining value through that entity. You could consider it a vessel, something that, is moving around, and you're loading stuff on it and loading stuff off of it. Your house, your car, your bank accounts, your investments. But there's another type of entity called a trust. And a trust it's an entity just like a business entity is, but it has a different structure. So therefore, there's a different set of benefits and costs. The main cost is learning about it, but the main benefit is the amount of protection that you can get that a business entity can't get.
So wait, this is really important to learn. Well, duh.
Well, if you're thinking long term, it is.
Trusts and wills.
Trusts and wills. If you have a will, you have to go to probate. That means an attorney at law. Mm-hmm. That means court costs. That means a large expense to settle the will through probate. But if you have a trust, the trust never dies. So it never has to go to probate.
Does this mean like old money, like in Michigan here, there's the Ford family and all these rich families down at Grosse Pointe, old money, like these people, I've heard they have like trusts or something. They're educated about this stuff. Does this mean like
yes.
You want to set up all this stuff? So
yes. All the wealthiest families have trusts. It's the only way you can endure the changing trends in the legal community, the at-law community, because they're writing new legislation all the time. Mm-hmm. More taxes, more assessments, more fees, more, ways for your wealth to leak out.
Or get confiscated.
Exactly. So nobody wants that, but they just don't know how to protect themselves well enough.
Education.
Right.
This is the real education.
And if we're not careful, we get so busy running what feels like running on a treadmill as fast as we can without falling down.
And then spending our little bit of free time we do have drugging ourselves with food and entertainment.
Sure. And you need a break.
Yeah.
Our bodies are built to do work and to take a break and to do work and to take a break. What we're not working on very well is private education as opposed to public education. We turn on the TV and we're watching movies and TVs, and there's some programming there. They call it television programming or watch a TV program. So they're giving you public education, public conditioning, how to see the public and how to formulate beliefs and behaviors in the public. But there's a private side that isn't portrayed. And some people go to private schools, and depending on which private schools they go to, they get better private education. And so there's a separation there between the public and the private. And trusts are more about
what is
privacy.
The private sector? I've heard that used.
Well, that's a legal term.
Oh.
If it's out in the public and they're talking about the private, that means like people at home or people that don't work in government, like they're non-military or they're non-government. They'll refer to those as the public, but there's the private, but all of their information is still public. So your business records, right? Your tax records, any of your records are public.
Okay, so
Trusts allow you to keep certain things private. And we talked about 3 different types of equity. I'm not talking about social equity like they talk about on social media. That's equality of outcome, which is a political ideology closer to socialism. I'm not talking about that equity. That's a debate out in the public about politics.
But you said something when we were eating lunch. You gave me some silverware off the table. You said it's yours. It's a gift or something. But it wasn't really yours to give. Or you're saying is there a letter, a trust connected to that proves?
Yeah, when you're in trust, all of your assets are called trust res, and all of your res has a chain of title to it. So whether it's a gold,
chain of title.
Yeah. So you can prove you're holding the title that you wish to convey to somebody as a gift or in a bargain and sale, right? Or you're going to pass title to a beneficiary in your trust. Somebody who benefits from the trust is a beneficiary.
The beneficiary of the trust.
Yeah. So that could be your children, it could be your spouse, it could be your favorite charity, it could be another trust of yours, it could be you.
And then they get the usufruct. Is that?
You can. That is a title. A usufructory is a title. And if you don't know what usufruct is, then usufruct. But that's a saying they say. It's just the beneficial use. You don't have, right? You don't own it.
I don't know why.
But you have the right to use it.
It's funny because this is all Chinese, and I shouldn't even
be trying to offer it.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
The nice thing about trust is it's different than a business entity, but it can act like a business. It has much greater protection and privacy, so you have to know how to do those.
Dude, I'm not going to lie. I've been a selfish person my whole life, trying to fend and survive for myself, and hopefully one day I can, it's for my family I really care about. But I haven't even thought about passing anything on to my wife and kids or my children or grandchildren one day because, interesting. So when you start thinking about this stuff and learning about it, then it comes into your interior space and it becomes important.
Yeah, let's say by the time you die, let's say that, your assets are worth $1 million.
Yeah.
And so now all you have is a will.
Mm-hmm.
And so now the will has to go through probate. So now you got court fees and attorney costs to settle the will, make sure the assets are distributed, right? You've got administrators, executors. They all need to be paid. So maybe now only $500,000 passes down, right? If you would have done a trust and just said upon death, these titles change from the grantor, from the creator of the trust, or the trustees who are managing it. Now the titles transfer to the beneficiary. You don't need a court for that. That just happens. The trustees create the certificates because they have the power to do it.
So that document, if you pass that trust or whatever a trust is, a portfolio or a document that's all notarized.
It's a collection of res.
Yeah. That thing is solid gold. And now, let's say a man passes, his wife can go to the places and get everything transferred.
Well, the trustees will say, ma'am, your husband died, you're the beneficiary, he wanted you to have this, here's all the titles.
Yeah.
Then they would say, would you like us to create a trust and put those in it for you and for your children and because this trust can collapse now, or it can continue, depends on how you write it.
Okay.
That's why you get to create it yourself based on how you want it to function, rather than pay somebody who's in, a jurisdiction that's less beneficial to your beneficiaries, to the people who benefit from your trust.
So these private wealthy families understand all this stuff, where the regular general public people don't pass this information down, and then they're just broke and stay broke, or work for a living to not pass anything down.
Unincorporated trusts are over 1,000 years old. So kings and the Pope and, wealthy families, elite families, ruling class families, all know what these trusts are. They don't teach it, They don't teach exclusive equity trusts in law school that attorneys go to, because they want you to hire an attorney to write a trust in a jurisdiction that they're a part of, so they can charge, they can make money. Their union of their bar union can
It's not
can
funny,
thrive.
it's just interesting.
Right.
Wow.
And nobody's wrong, right
Yeah.
or wrong. I mean, if you don't have the time to do it or the interest in it, then maybe just work harder
With a
and you can afford to pay it out and get it done for you, and or just do a will and, let the courts and the attorneys administrate it all and sort it out.
This stuff has been so removed from... I've never heard of anything like this.
Yeah, it's because we're becoming more and more legally oriented instead of equitably oriented. You have more and more attorneys standing at the gates of all of the potential controversies or conflicts. Everything is legal documents written by attorneys,
Yeah, and everybody wants to get
administered by,
paid.
yes, and everybody, because it's commerce, it's adversarial. So
Wow.
yeah, so that's where everybody is being moved to, because it is, you don't have to think as much, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you like thinking and you like,
Just like we don't grow our own food and deal with our own... like, we've become a culture where you go to work, you get paid, you pay your bills, other people handle your electricity, or like everything is,
convenient,
convenience.
but it
cost.
costs you your life, so to speak. Right? What's the cost? Yeah.
I don't know why I'm laughing. It's just...
And none of it's right or wrong or good or bad. It's all right relative to the experience that you're having, or the one that you would prefer to have. But most people don't know they have a choice. And so you have a lot of people who are capable of more thinking and more like governing your affairs yourself, but they don't know how to do it because it's being removed from their reach in ways that aren't obvious.
Guys, if you made it all the way to the end of this podcast, you got to let me know. Let me know in the comments. Let me know somewhere, because that's awesome that you listen to this all the way through. And I got to end the podcast somewhat abruptly. We can keep going on and on about this, but we had to wrap it up. Is there any final things you want to say, or steps forward, or how they can go away from the podcast and retain some of it, or resource, or a book?
There's more than meets the eye. And that's the good news. And it can benefit you. But it's not something you're going to download an ebook and have it all shift for you over the weekend. Right? It's taken you this long to get to here at this level of mastery of how you run your life today. Mm-hmm. And to shift it into another method is not going to be easy. It's kind of like if you write right-handed, and now you're going to try and write left-handed. It's essentially the same thing. It's the same skill set, but you're learning it from the other side.
Yeah.
Yep. So you're learning Windows now instead of just a little application once in a while.
The one reason that I don't pursue it hard, but I do pursue talking with you about this and learning about it, is because it just resonates truthfully to me. Like I can feel that it's powerful, truthful stuff, so I carve out time for it, and I'm very thankful.
Yeah, it's how the country was founded. It's how, all of the kings do business. The elite families have been doing it this way for over 1,000 years. So it's nothing new. It's just they would prefer, people that control the commerce and the public would prefer you don't do it that way.
Can you recommend
because it cuts them out?
Even like a book or anything to put people in the right direction if they want to learn more about just the simple side?
Sure. The Art of Passing the Buck, Volume 1, is great because it's easy to read. Volume 2 is technical for trust administrators.
The Art of Passing the Buck.
Yeah, how do you pass the wealth down through your family's bloodline?
Okay.
That's what we used to do. It was commonplace, but it's all been kind of broken up. And the families are suffering. I mean, look how many divorces there are. Look at how many families don't consider themselves tight.
Yeah.
right? Family comes first. That's because they had that trust there and they all worked on it and they all benefited from it and it passed down and there was an accumulation of wealth. There wasn't like this idea of starting from scratch all the time that most people go through. You know, we have not much benefit at all. We're starting from scratch and we're hustling, running as fast as we can, putting out fires, and then we die.
Wow.
So it's up to somebody at some point, if you want to reestablish those family wealth systems where they pass down, so your children have a leg up, and then their children will have a double leg up, and then their children, because you're all working together, so you have something in common that pulls you together. And Art of Passing the Buck helps really paint a picture about how old these trusts are, who is using them, how they benefit, the different types, trusts.
Honestly, you talk about it like that, I can feel the responsibility on me now.
Well, that's self-governance, right? So nobody's administrating your wealth for you or your rules or your, right? That's how it becomes impenetrable because it's your jurisdiction.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay, thanks for being on the show, man.
Yeah, awesome.
Thanks, Rob.
Good luck. Hope there's not too many headaches.